All right, welcome back, everybody. Biz Mastery Week 4. I'm just going to mute everybody so we can get a nice recording of this. Perfect. There we go. All right, week 4 is sampling and inviting. So I'm pretty excited. I've recently come across some cool new tools to show you. So look forward to that in the webinar as we go through this. The first thing I thought we could do is watch Tiffany Peterson's video together, because that's going to take off some of the homework for this week. And I feel like last week's homework was a bit like it was a lot. There was a lot to do, especially with recording the video. I really loved watching all of your videos, and I'm super thankful that you guys took the time to record it, to think about what you were going to say, and to really put yourself out there. I know some of you have maybe never recorded yourself speaking before, and it's awkward and weird at first, but it's such a good first step. It's so important to just go out and do it and be brave and share your story, especially in this setting, right? We're all learning, we're all growing together, we're all doing this, and everybody in the group is only here to encourage you. So it was definitely a safe place to share your story. So thanks to everybody who did that. So I'm just going to click on the link, and we can watch the Tiffany Peterson, The Law of the Harvest video. And I love this video. Can you guys hear it? Can you give me a thumbs up?
Hi, I'm Tiffany Peterson, and I want to share with you today what I call the law of the harvest. Years ago, when I was in sales and just getting started on that path, and I was new to it, and I had nerves and doubts and fears, like many of you, I assume, as you're starting anything new or a new path or a new business. And I was introduced to that phrase that the harvest cannot be prevented. And I don't know about you, but as we're working through life, I really love the concept of a garden, right? Is that there's a certain law of the universe that what we plant and nourish must bring forward its like fruit. And so when you think about for yourself, there are times where it's really easy to get discouraged. I've been there myself, where you're putting in the effort, you're nourishing that garden, you're out there watering it, weeding it, and maybe you're not seeing the results as quickly as you would like. But there's these amazing laws at play in the universe that if you stick with something, you will meet with success. See, there's this phrase that I love to teach that says this: persistence trumps talent. There will always be a harvest that comes every year, every fall, without fail, if we are faithful and consistent to do our part to nourish that garden. Now, for some of you, you might be in what I call the July of your life right now. You may have started in May, so to speak, symbolically, started planting that garden. You were all excited, bought new overalls, new gardening tools, got out there, planted those seeds, and it was fun, right? Right out of the gate. And then a few weeks goes by, and a month goes by, or 2 months goes by, and maybe there's some sprouts coming through, or maybe there's been 1 or 2 little things, but there isn't this full crop of results that you're watching, and it seems like everyone else has but you. That's your July. You're now hot, you're sweaty, you're tired. Maybe your partner who joined in that garden with you in the beginning is nowhere to be found any longer, and it's up to you. I promise you, if you push through that July, in other words, that adversity and that struggle and that challenge, you will meet with success, because your harvest cannot be prevented. Be more concerned about being true to your dreams than your dreams coming true. Say that again. You be loyal. There's loyalty pays great dividends. Be true to your dreams, and your dreams will be true to you. The harvest can never be prevented. That universal law is in play for all of us. So I invite you to choose to be persistent, choose to continue to nourish your dreams, and you also will meet with success.
I just love that video. You guys love that? She's so good. I pretty much love everything she throws down, but I love this one because I feel like this happens all the time. It's not even just a yearly thing, but I get caught up in this on a regular basis. Like, you're in the middle of of planting seeds and working hard and doing some groundwork and maybe even investing in people and builders, and you aren't seeing the results of it yet. And it can be frustrating. It can be difficult. It can be this feeling like you're never going to get there, especially if you're watching other people and seeing them surpass you, or if you're comparing your business to someone else's. So we have to just remember that it's like Tiffany Peterson says, it's a law of the universe that what you plant will actually come to bring its like crop. And I like that she uses the word the like crop, because if you're planting garbage, you're only going to grow garbage, right? So you need to actually be planting seeds that come from a really pure, authentic place and are coming from a place of having a bit of education as well. So we can't just, go around spouting crazy things about essential oils and expecting people to come back to us with their money in hand, right? We have to be educated and understand the product that we're selling, and we have to be responsible with that information and also loving in the way that we present it to people. We really do reap what we sow, and I hope that you can really experience that in your business. Sometimes people literally message me out of nowhere, and they're people that I haven't even had a connection with. They're people who have just been silently following along in my journey. And those kinds of things, I didn't even realize I was planting seeds. They were people who, were seeing things on Facebook and just reached out and one day said, hey, I'm having trouble sleeping and I thought maybe you could help me. And I love watching those things come together. I love when that actually happens and that harvest comes together. And sometimes it's miraculous to watch it come together. On occasion, especially when I seem to be putting myself in that manifesting a goal kind of a state, that things come together like I just can't explain it. For me, I always think God must be on my side in these moments, because sales are coming in from people I had no expectation of, and things are just coming together at the right time. And you will definitely experience that in times in your business. You'll have these really tough times. She calls your July, these really hardworking times. And you'll have these great times when people are enjoying what you're putting out there, and they're looking to connect with you and get what you've got. We know this truth, right? 80% of sales are made between the 5th and the 12th contact. So don't give up. It's so easy for us to just give up and think, you know what, I've tried, I've followed up with them. I don't think that they're interested, and to just walk away. So don't give up. Okay, we're going to go through a few tips on effective sampling. And I feel like if you've been sampling before, that a lot of this is probably common sense. You should know a lot of these tips, but if not, I think it's really important to have a really good understanding of how to sample. This is also a skill that we can learn. So make sure that you're doing it correctly. You don't want to give people a lot of different kinds of samples, because then they have everything they need and they don't need to buy anything. And you don't want to give them a lot, like a high quantity. So I know the first time I was handing out samples, I thought 10 drops was not a lot of oil. And I thought I was being really cheap and really rude by giving people this tiny little thing with a few drops of oils. But really, for somebody to try something, they only need 1 drop, right? So that was 10 experiences of the same oil, and it goes a long way. So I tend to put 12 drops in my samples, and I just assume after a dozen times they should either need more or they'll just have a really good experience with that. So make sure you don't sample a lot of oil or a lot of different kinds of oils. Sample to their easiest ailment, right? So if they tell you they have arthritis and headaches, clearly you're going to go to the one that's a little bit easier to see immediate results. So you're not going to be able to heal their arthritis, though you will likely be able to help them find relief. A headache is something that's so temporary, typically. Most people have a headache, on occasion, that they're going to be able to find relief from it. So sample to the easiest thing. That's why we always ask, what are your top 3 health goals? Because it gives you a choice in what you're going to sample. Also, create the right expectations. This is super important because if people assume that you gave them the only oil that's going to fix their ailment and it doesn't work, they're going to think all oils don't work. So when you hand them your sample, you have to make sure that you tell them, hey, like everybody's different. Essential oils interact in the body in different ways. So if you don't have the results that you're expecting, feel free to ask me and I'll give you another sample to try so that they're aware that there may be a better option for them. Always ask their permission to follow up. So I love this because you're not just asking their permission, but you're also making it very clear that you are going to follow up. So when that does happen, they're not surprised and they don't think it's weird that you're calling them or sending them a message. They're less likely to ignore you if you ask this question. Always carry your samples with you. I have found myself without samples in situations. I was at Starbucks and it was a day that I walked in with no kids and she said, oh, you have the day off work. It must be so nice. And I was like, well, I'm a mom and I don't really get any time off from that. And I also sell essential oils. She said, oh, I'm really interested in oils. I've never tried doTERRA. I hear a lot of good things about that company. And I was like, funny enough, that's who I sell oils for. And so I reached in my purse and I had 0 samples left. And I said, normally I would give you a sample, but I don't have any on me. And I just felt so weird leaving that situation. It was like a perfect open door and I just walked away from it. And so I made sure to go home, get a sample and get it to her the next day. But it wasn't the same sort of experience where I just pulled one out and had it ready. So always have your samples with you. You'll never know who will need something and when. And carry quite a few different kinds of samples. Like, don't just stick a sample vial of peppermint in your purse and assume that you got your bases covered. Because sure enough, you'll find somebody who needs Breathe or Digestion or something else, right? So make sure you carry a couple different options. And the ones that you're probably going to choose are what Ange calls the high impact oils. So things that typically relieve common, easy ailments, and they're noticeable that they're working, right? So Breathe, Digestion. She put On Guard, but I don't find that's a really great one to sample because it's more like boosting your immune system. Elevation for mood, lavender for calming, peppermint. Those are all great samples. I also keep Past Tense and the Breathe Rub or the Deep Blue Rub samples in my purse. And I love those. And the ones I do carry of On Guard are On Guard throat drops because I find anybody who has a sore throat tries those bad boys and they love me for life. So most people definitely stock up on those after they've tried them. I don't know, have any of you guys seen Ange's sampling toolkit? So she has quite a few toolkits listed over in the WholeFit page, and they're all really helpful. I don't know if you've ever looked through them. I often check in there if I have a very specific need that I'm looking for, and I'm like, I wonder if she has a toolkit on that, and she certainly does. She has toolkits for everything. So we can click on the sampling toolkit. It's in the BizMastery document, or just go to the WholeFit page. And you can click on her toolkits, and then there's links to all the toolkits there. So the first one here is like a sample letter that you would send to somebody if you're mailing them a sample, right? So if you're meeting somebody in person, you wouldn't be giving them a whole letter. But if this is somebody who's not close to you and you need to mail them something in the mail, you're going to send a really great letter with it, explaining how to use those specific samples. And she even has a little write-up about each oil that you can copy and paste into your letter. So I love that. So she gives you, like, seriously guys, copy paste. This is really easy, simple way to sample. So just some different scripts and stuff that you can use if you want to check that out. And then I love just using my share guide. So You can use the you know how doTERRA sends you in Class in a Box, the living doTERRA naturally, sharing doTERRA naturally, building doTERRA naturally. The share one has actual sample cards that you can punch out. They're like perforated. You can punch them out and use those as sample cards. Or Share Success also has their own share guide. And so these are awesome, these punch cards. You can just punch them out, stick your sample in it in that little circle, and it's got everything they need right on there. I usually find that this is not enough information. So if they were looking to try something for headaches and I give them a sample of peppermint or past tense or whatever it is, I find that this will not, because it's compliant, it will not talk about the ailments that I need it to say. So I will usually still write them a letter, or I'll give them an essential oil usage guide with my samples so they can see other ways to use the oils. But I do like this to go along with them. So some cool sample supplies. I don't know where you guys usually buy your sample supplies. I tend to carry doTERRA sample packs in my purse. Those are my favorites. I love the 3-packs. I love that when you're sampling one thing, you can also give them a couple other things to try, because I feel like it gets their curiosity up. They're like, oh, well, what are these ones for? And so I've done that in the past. I'll literally give them all 3 samples, but I'll just tell them what the one's for, the one that I'm sampling them, and kind of let them discover on their own. I feel like once they do some research and they look into it and they start reading on the internet, that they are finding their own answers, and their curiosity for doTERRA will only grow from there. So I love that. My Essential Business, obviously we know that from Toronto, is a fantastic way to get sample products. Aroma Tools is also good. But these are some maybe you aren't more familiar with. ShareOils.com has the cutest little roller bottles. Have you ever seen these? They're like tiny mini roller bottles. Super cute, right? So if you want to sample something like past tense, it's better to put it in a little roller than a giant one. And it's just a 1 ml vial. And these ones with the mini droppers, I find sample drams are really hard to get oils out of. So every time I'm sampling to people, they are like, how do I get a dropout? You know, they turn it upside down and nothing comes out. So I usually tell them to just tap it on their finger. It doesn't work very good. But these mini droppers are awesome. So they can actually literally get 1 drop and squeeze it out. So that's a cool resource for you. And then the other one is really cool as well. And if you guys are interested, I have a link or a coupon code for 5% off of this store. It's not a whole lot, but it's something. So this is Easy Oil Solutions, or EOS. And they have really cute sample cards, all kinds of sample cards. And it's called Sharing Made Simple. And so they make the sampling really, really cute and informative and simple. So there's a bundle. You can buy all these sample cards. I really like this one. It's a top 10 little guide that you can give people on the top 10 oils. And this one, I don't know if you can see down here, the bottom one is like an emotional aromatherapy sample card, and you could sample one of the emotional blends. And on the inside of it, let me see if I can find it. On the inside of it, it actually has an emotional wheel so that they can, there it is, so that they can actually, when they have their sample, they'll be able to see the other oils that come in the emotional aromatherapy kit and kind of think, oh, well, I'm feeling anxious. I actually need that peace blend. And then they'll be curious to try some of the other oils in that kit. So I think these sample cards are really cool, really pretty ways of sampling the oils. And so you can they come in packs of 10 for $3.50. So pretty inexpensive when you're sharing them one at a time, if you're gonna be making your own samples. It's a great way to do it. So lots of cool stuff on this website, Easy Oil Solutions. I see somebody's chatting. Hold on a sec. Do they ship to Canada? They do. And Marissa Heisel is the one who is giving us 5% off. She's Canadian, and she is getting them to switch all of their US pricing to be like doTERRA Canadian pricing. So we're going to have All of this stuff is going to be available in Canadian dollars, shipped with a really, really good rate to ship to Canada as well. So really cool. Share Oils also carries the gold lid rollers, yes. And so does this one, Easy Oil Solution. Look at these rollers. They're so pretty. Look at that. Aren't they nice? So if you're looking for really like pretty ways of sharing your oils, or you just like yourself having really pretty roller bottles, I love these. Cool, cool. Oh, another chat. I love them too. I am such a sucker for pretty things, and I'm sure they cost more than a regular roller bottle, but I will totally buy them just because they look cute. Oh man. Okay, so it's so important that once you get those samples to people, that you turn the sample into an invitation. I have been a very terrible sampler in the past. So I will literally just send people free stuff, and then I'll follow up with them like a month later because I remember that I sent them something. This is not a good way to sample to people. You want to follow up with them within like a couple days. So you give them a few days to try it, and then you're on them to see how they liked it. And then you have to always factor in your next touch point. So when you've given them that sample, figure out when you're going to contact them. So be very specific and say, would you mind if I followed up with you on Friday? Right? So you're going to get back to them on Friday and ask them how it went. The way to invite them is if you have regular classes on your calendar all the time, that you're going to be able to have a class to invite them to. Right? So if you don't have something booked every month, what's going to happen is you hand somebody a sample and they're like, oh, I would love to come learn more about it. Do you teach classes? And be like, yeah, but I don't know when the next one is. Like, let me get back to you. Super awkward. So if you can book something regularly, then you'll be able to have those things on hand, and you can just, whatever your next class is, you can give them an invitation. And so that's what the next point is, carry invitation cards with you. So I actually learned this from Kelly. We were at a restaurant and she gave somebody a sample, and then she pulled out her invitation card, wrote down on it the date that her next class was, and then her address and all of that contact information, just handed it to her. I was like, Kelly, I've never been using those stupid invitations. I didn't even know what to use them for. Why are you so much smarter than me? So I carry them in my purse all the time now, and then I can refer to it. Like every time I have upcoming classes, it was such a pain. I would fill them out for classes I had at my own house and try to hand them to people. And then I'd have all these pre-filled out invitations that I forget to hand to people, and then I would be garbage. So this is so much better to hand them out with your samples and invite them to something, if they're local, of course. If they're not local, invite them to watch a webinar or a class, or maybe even teach a Skype class or a Facebook class or something for them, so that they can experience the oil education post-sample, right? Once they have their sample, they need to learn how to use it. They need to actually be able to apply this oil and use it for their health and figure out more ways to use different oils. So you have to lead them into that step, into that education. So there's this really cool video from Elise Chedevy, and I can post the link for you guys after. It's called Weekly Success Schedule. It's about 25 minutes long, so we can't watch it right on the call, but I will show you. Ooh, it's really loud. I just paused it at this point in the movie so that I could show you. This is what Elise was doing early on in her business when she was building. She kind of figured out that she needed to offer her very rapidly growing population of oil users and her team something more scheduled. So what she would do was literally every single Thursday, she would host an Essential Oils 101 class. And then after the class, she would have a business opportunity presentation. So she would say, if anyone's interested in learning more about the business, you're welcome to stay afterwards. We're going to have a quick, half-hour presentation of how to build doTERRA. every single Saturday, she would have a continuing education class, and she would rotate with the leaders on her team, and they would take turns going through 8 different topics, like supplements or fitness or kids and oils or whatever it is. And then they, once they got through those 8 topics, they would do them all over again, the same 8 topics again. And then the strategy sessions, so those were her mentor calls that were happening every single Monday, and then a team call every single Monday night. So that was just her schedule. But I was watching this video and I thought, maybe we should, in our own local areas, be offering something like this. How much easier would it be to invite people to a regular occurring class, and if you didn't have to teach it all the time? So you're taking turns with other people in your area, and you just send people to your class. Lee Freiling has started doing this as well out in BC. She just hosted her first one last week, I think. And she just did it for everybody who's in the area. She's like, it doesn't matter if you're on my team or not, just send people. I'm going to be teaching an essential oils 101 class. You can come. And it was at a school, a local high school. And she had a huge turnout. Lee has a humongous team, so I'm not surprised. But I just thought this is a really cool idea and something for you guys to think about, if that's something that you would consider offering. If it's just you in your business at this point, you don't have leaders, consider doing it at your own house. It doesn't have to be every week. You could do every other week. But then every single month, you have these classes that are scheduled on your calendar, something you can look forward to. So I love the idea, and I think you guys should totally watch this video and just kind of get a feel for what this could potentially look like in your business. All right, the fortune is in the follow-up. We know this to be true. We know how important follow-up is. I would like to ask you, before we get into this, how do you feel when you follow up with people? How do you guys like following up? And maybe how has it changed from when you first started to now? Do you guys love follow-up, or do you feel weird and awkward?
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. I used to hate follow-up and I avoided doing it. And I actually have sampled people that I've never ever followed up with. And then recently I've done a lot of personal development, and now I kind of love following up with people because it's more like, what did you get out of it? Right? And I ask them lots of questions and I like to know what they got out of it. So it's gotten a lot better. And I notice now that I'm more excited about doing it, that I get more from the people.
That's awesome. Can I ask you, what kind of questions you would ask people typically? Like, say it was a sample you would send them. What would you ask?
So if I sampled them Breathe, I'd ask if it helped. And if they said yes, I'd ask them how they used it and what exactly they noticed. Like, was it easier to breathe? Did it help with congestion? That kind of thing.
That's awesome. No, I love that. I feel like questions are a great way to follow up with people, and not like specific questions like, do you want to buy this oil? But very like, how did it make you feel? How did it work for you? And then kind of let them lead the conversation into where they're going to take it. Because if they loved it, chances are that they want to try it again, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a great example. I feel like our attitude and our words it just comes out so clearly when we're talking to people, even if it's on Facebook. I feel like people can smell our desperation, and we have to kind of guard the way that we approach people and the way that we follow up with them, right? So are we inviting them to have their next experience? Like, that's what we should be doing. Are we, getting them excited about what else is possible, or are we just closing a sale? So you just want to kind of consider how you're following up. We do want to enroll people. We know that's the goal. We know that's what we're trying to do. But if you think about it, it's so much more important to create people who love doTERRA, who love their oils, because a sale is just a one-time thing. But creating this person who has a life-changing experience, or somebody who really did feel like this made a difference, those are going to be the people who become sharers, who tell other people about oils. They're also going to be your lifelong customers. People who've had their lives changed are going to come back again and again and again, right? So this is why it's so important to not make your follow-ups about a one-time sale, but to make it about a relationship and investing in them and becoming interested in them and presenting them with a lot of value and education. How do you nurture your relationships? Like, are you a natural nurturer? Some of us probably are and probably do this really well. And it just comes super naturally. You just think, like, I just want to take care of these people and I want to pour my time and my energy into them. And I want to make sure that they have everything that they need to thrive. The word nurture means to care for and encourage the growth and development of. And so while we do that with our team, we also have to do that with our customers. And I love it because really that's how doTERRA is. Our products are nurtured, right? They're grown in the best possible environment. We need to think of our customers in the same sort of way. We want them to grow and have the best possible experience of doTERRA. And we are the ones who provide that experience. I've actually had quite a few people come to me in their customer experience and express that they were kind of annoyed with the person who enrolled them. Likely that person never spoke to them again after they bought their oils. They never plugged them into a Facebook group. They never offered them continuing education. They didn't explain how the membership worked. Whatever it is, these people felt like they didn't have value. And I'm not saying I've never done that. I feel like there's probably people out there who think I'm not very good at what I do either. But I do know that I've heard from a few people that they feel frustrated when they don't feel cared for and they don't feel important. And so we all need to get better at this and really to make our relationships with our customers not about sales, but about them and what their next experience is going to be with doTERRA and what kind of education they need. John Maxwell says that nurturing has the ability to change lives. This is massive, and I feel like it's such a huge part of what doTERRA offers us, right? We have the opportunity to change people's lives. This is a big gift that you can literally, by giving somebody a drop of oil, you can change their whole perspective on healthcare, on their toxic intake in their home, on cleaning, on so many areas of their life that are going to improve because of one oil sample that you've shared with them. And so we definitely need to nurture that. We know that we want to focus on our own growth in this business, and we want to be able to focus on our goals and our ambitions. But we also, at the same time, have to focus on the growth of other people, the growth of both our builders and our customers. Both of these things are so important. I've heard Ange say it multiple times that what you focus on expands. And so if you focus on a regular basis on the fact that people are not getting back to you and people are ignoring you and people don't want to host classes and you're having a hard time, that's going to keep multiplying in your business. It's going to keep showing up for you and you're not going to be able to get past it. So instead, focus on educating people. Focus on meeting people where they're at. Focus on really supporting the people in your network, the people who maybe don't know oils yet. They haven't tried doTERRA, and getting them to have the same kind of experiences, but in a really positive, awesome way. Here's some follow-up examples as we're talking about follow-up. Some not so good options is to just ask a very open-ended question, like, what did you think about the On Guard that I gave you? And while it doesn't sound like a bad approach, really, when you give them an opportunity to answer it open-ended like that, you're giving them the opportunity to say that they didn't like it. So you would usually just phrase it in a better way and say, what did you like best about blank, whatever it is. When you're going into that situation, don't think to yourself, like, I feel like it's so hard to not do this, but definitely put yourself in a positive attitude. Don't think, oh man, maybe they didn't like it. I don't want to be a bother to them. They didn't respond, so maybe they aren't ready right now. Definitely shape your thinking, your attitude on this in a positive way, because we know the oils work. So even now, as a diamond in this business, I have still had product doubts, and I don't know why. We had a friend who had a very, very serious back condition. He's had it for a really long time, and he asked me about trying oils for it. And I didn't know which oils would be best for him. And his condition was so bad. Like, he had herniated one of his discs, and it was really sitting crooked in his body. And this was before I went to the Wellness Summit and heard her amazing story. So if you weren't there, she shared how they had such healing from a herniated disc. But I didn't really trust that the oil was going to help him. And because of my lack of belief, I was not very good at sampling it to him. And so I was like, well, you could try this one, but like, I don't know if it's going to be quite what you're looking for. Like, I don't think it's going to work well for nerve pain, and you should really try LLB, but I can't sample that. So I don't know what I'm going to do there. And I did not do a good job of putting my own belief forward first. And I don't know why, but he put the Deep Blue on. And he was like, I can't believe this. My pain is so much less than it is usually. And he like walks with a cane, and he hasn't been working for years. And the Deep Blue just provided him with such relief. And I was like full of belief again. I thought, okay, why was I doubting? I know the oils work. I know they work. So you have to, in every situation, just trust that these oils are going to work, and to not worry if they don't work, right? Because there's other options. There's other things for them to try. No, they're not magic, but they do some pretty incredible, powerful things. And we need to believe that those things are going to happen. So some of the good follow-up examples, we said that already. What did you like best about blank? Or how did that oil sample work for you? This is a typical one. If I blank, would you blank? So typically when you're giving them the sample, you would say, if I were to give you this sample, would you try it? Would you use it? Or if you want to invite them to a class, if I gave you this sample, would you attend my class? Or if I sent you this webinar, would you watch it? Those kinds of phrases are fantastic. I love the very specific follow-up. Do you mind if I follow up with you on Friday? And then I want you to put yourself in their shoes. So I know sometimes we want to jump the gun to the next point of contact. We want to skip ahead to okay, will you host a class for me? Or, okay, here's the promo for this month. Are you ready to sign up? Put yourself in their shoes. If they've tried one oil ever, they haven't had any education, what would be the next thing that they need? So really consider what would be the next thing in your own journey if you had only had one sample. And then consider what would that be. So never rush the process. Think, okay, what's next? What's the next step? And always plan for the next step after that. Okay, take out a pen and paper, and I want you guys to rate yourselves in these 5 areas. And it's gonna help you kind of see what your relationship with your customers is like, and how well you're doing in these different areas. And then maybe help you to figure out what you need to work on in your oil sampling, inviting biz. So the first one is connection. Are you good at making people feel like your friend, not a sale? So rate yourself from 1 to 10. How good are you at making friends? Building relationships, forming that connection, forming that bond. Number 2, how good are you at building their confidence with the oils? So giving them the education, the access to the resources that they need, the ongoing information. is this one of your strengths? Are you good at passing on lots of information to people in a very simple, duplicable way so your builders can do the same? Number 3, are you available to answer their questions and simultaneously empowering them to find their own answers? And I say these ones together instead of separately because I feel like you can't have one without the other. If you are always available to answer people's questions, they won't go and find their own answers. And at the same time, if you're never available, they won't have any answers at all, right? So I feel like they go together really well. How well do you do this? Helping people find answers. Number 4, how well do you model the lifestyle? Are you using your oils every day? And are you using them publicly so people can see them? Out and about, at family functions, at church, wherever you are you using your oils so people can see them? And are you sharing? So if you're not using them in front of them, are you sharing them? Telling people about it? How well do you model your oil lifestyle on a scale of 1 to 10? And the last one, on a scale of 1 to 10, how well do you gain people's trust? And this will happen through your expertise, your lifestyle, and your integrity. Do people tend to trust you? And now I want you to pick the one with the lowest score. And that's going to be an area that you need to figure out how to improve, something that you want to work on. Would anyone like to share something that they need a little work in, an area of your sharing skills, your customer skills that needs some work? You can unmute yourself.
Hi.
Hello.
Meg. Hey. My lowest was my ability to answer questions, and I find that I enable people more. Like, they will always be asking me, and I'll always be answering, rather than guiding them to other resources.
Yeah.
I feel like I have to work on that more.
It's hard not to do that because you want to be helpful and you want to give them all the answers, right?
Right.
Do you know which resources to find to give them? Do you feel like you'd be good at?
No, that's what I was actually going to ask, because like if I'm just sampling, I don't always give them a usage guide,
Right.
Depending on who it is that I'm sampling, or the situation. I don't always give them a guide. So, and there's not as many online resources, so it's kind of,
I know.
I feel like I have to answer all of their questions.
Yeah. Since we lost, I don't remember what that website was called. The one with all the
Everything Essentials.me. I don't know. A really good website. Yeah.
for years. Since we lost that one, we sort of don't have this like go-to, just send them the link and they can find their answers, right?
Yeah.
I tend to send people to doTERRA.com. I find the things are very vague in what they say, or I'll send them to doTERRA Canada's Facebook page and have them just search things, but they can't find answers to actual ailments there. But
Yeah.
I do have a electronic version of a usage guide, and I send that to people.
I have done that before with some people, but yeah, I should just start doing that a little bit more often, I guess.
Yeah, we need some like go-to resources, almost like on a bookmarks list that you can just click and send.
Yeah, for sure.
Totally. Okay, I see some more chats coming up. Sorry, I'm super behind on the chats. I'm terrible at keeping track of those. Yes, you don't want to give them too much information. Oh yeah, Fallon says we do still have the old everythingessential.me. There's an archive link for it, so she put it in the chat for you. So if you guys want to copy and paste that and save it somewhere, you can still send them to that website for the health concerns. I don't tend to send it out simply because it's non-compliant, but it's totally fine to send privately to people. Would anyone else like to share something that they need to work on? I'm sure there's lots of other us who need work in these areas.
I'm gonna share. I find that I need work with like sharing what I'm doing with the oils. I'm just new. I just made a Facebook page and stuff like for myself. So this is all sort of new to me, and so that's my goal, is to start sharing more. And yeah, that's all I want to share.
The oil lifestyle part, like to actually tell people what you're doing?
Yeah, like actually share. I find I talk a lot, but I don't actually put it out there, like other than my everyday people, right? Like the people I see every day. I feel like it's better if you're posting it out there for your larger network to see.
And I feel like it's such a cool way to share oils with people without sounding the least bit salesy, is if you're just telling them how you're using them in your everyday life. Like a picture of your fruit in the sink with lemon oil. Be like, hey, I'm washing my oils with my fruit with this today. And nothing other than that is such a cool way to share what you're doing. Because people will see them over and over again. Oh, I'm gonna try that. Eventually one thing will resonate with somebody. Sorry, I'm just gonna mute everybody again. And then just unmute yourself. Does anyone else want to share something that you need to work on? Just checking who's all on here. Sounds like somebody unmuted themselves and then changed their mind.
That was me. I think for me, something that I need to work on is the connection part, making friends and not a sale, because I will reach out and connect awkwardly. I feel like it's awkward. And then when I don't get a response, or I usually don't make it the personal calls, I'll just do it through text or through Facebook. And when people don't respond, I feel like I just feel salesy and I feel awkward and then a little bit discouraged after that.
I do too. I get really discouraged even still, like as people, if they don't get back to me, I'm like, oh, they're ignoring me. Sometimes they haven't even seen the message personal for no reason.
The other day I sent out 2 messages and they both saw it and they neither responded.
Sometimes I tell myself that their kids were just playing on their phone and they thought the person didn't. It makes me feel bad. There's a really cool book. I forget the author's name. It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People. I feel like it's such a cool example of just being friends with people, just learning how, even meeting new people, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's putting a chat up. Do you know who it is? Dale Carnegie is the author. Thank you. Yeah, it's such a good read for anybody who's lacking in that area, if connection is your issue. Seeing the scene on Facebook Messenger with no response drives me crazy too. Totally. It's so annoying. All right. Okay, some more helpful tips as we're going through. I love the chat box. I'm terrible at checking it, but I try. All right. We know this, right? Follow up within a couple days. If you wait till a month later, likely they have long forgotten about the sample, they've misplaced it, and they have no recollection of if it worked or not. You have to follow up within a couple days. It's so important. I know we're afraid of them telling us they tried it and they didn't like it, or they tried it and it didn't work. So if you've set them up with the proper expectations that different oils work for different people, you'll always have that backup plan. Okay, would you like to try something else? There's always another oil to try. There's always another option. And if you're thinking that that particular area of sampling to is too difficult, ask them if there's a different area in their life that they want oils for. So something else that you can sample to. And maybe you can have a positive experience that way. And then they'd be willing to revisit the other health concern after they have that kind of aha moment, right? You want to invite them to some sort of class. So every time you have a touch with somebody, you're always going to plan your next follow-up. You're always going to plan your next experience. And getting them out to a class is so important. And I find you can't jump the gun from somebody attending a class to hosting a class too quickly, unless they're like your close friends. I feel like most people aren't willing to jump into that host position unless they've already experienced oils. And my most successful hosts are oil users because they'll share their own stories as they're hosting. So don't try to nail them down as a class host and be that like crazy network marketer who's just trying to book home parties all the time, right? You want them to have that oil experience and the education before they become a class host. That's been my experience anyways. There is a rare occasion I find with the older generation that they will ask if they figure out it's kind of a home party business, and they'll be like, do you do, classes or parties? Will you come to my house? But if for the most part, you'll have to invite them to a class that you're doing, which is why it's so important to host your own classes in your own home on a regular basis. Okay, so this is one of the worksheets. I'm sure some of you have done this before, your sort of 100 contacts, but I like that this gives you a list of people to think about. And even as I glanced at this really quickly, one of them was like, who do you know from your previous employment? And suddenly I was like, oh yeah, I had this lady I worked with that asked for a bottle of Breathe, and she hasn't tried any oils from me since. So just today, I reached out to her and said, hey, are you still up for a visit? I can bring my oils over. And she got back to me and said, yeah, let's hang out tomorrow. I'd love to have a one-on-one. So like this memory jogger is fantastic. Use it, write down people who are going to be able to, chat box. Something happened to my screen. Yolanda, you are full screen. And your screen is a tiny little square on the side. I don't know why that is. Is it weird for everybody? I think maybe it's one of your settings, Michelle. Something must be funny there. And I can't see other people. Yes, I think you might have to play with it somehow. There's different settings. You can click on the sidebar and choose gallery mode or choose speaker mode. Usually in screen share, I didn't know you could switch it around. But anyways, it's okay. My screen share is not going to last much longer, so just listen. So you're going to fill out this sheet. You can't actually write the 100 people down on this sheet because it doesn't give you enough space to do so. So grab a notebook and just kind of scratch out some of these things. If you've never done a 100 contact brainstorm, make sure you do this one. And I want to see a screenshot of the 100 contacts that you wrote down. These 3 questions are great too, because it's going to be getting you to think about who is your potential business partner. So this is not for this week. I think it's week 5 or 6 that we talk about finding builders. 6. 5 is teaching, 6 is finding builders, and 7 is mentoring. And I've got some really, really awesome guest speakers coming up for you as well. I can't wait. So fill out that sheet. This is your homework for this week. So complete your expand your contact sheet. Listen to this 3-minute audio. I don't have a link here. The link is in the document, and it will be in the post as well. I'll put the link right in there. Prepare 20 samples and highlight 20 people off your contact list that you plan to sample to. So 20 samples is a lot. I know that. If you are part of, I know Kelly is doing a sample challenge right now, you may include it in that. So if you're already sampling to people, anything that has been sent out in the month of February or will be sent out before the end of February will count, okay? As long as you put them all on a sample tracker, you don't have to do new 20 samples just for this group. But 20 samples has to be in February. and then I will count it, and then your homework will be complete. Okay, so they have to be handed out. Today's the 14th. There's only 28 days in February, so you have to hand them out in the next 2 weeks. And the last one is to develop a contact tracking system. If you already have one, then your homework's going to be very easy this week. You're just going to write out your 100 people, listen to a 3-minute audio. The rest should be pretty simple, okay? So you need a tracker. It can be literally as simple as opening a Google Sheet and writing the headings, name, address, sample, follow up, follow up, follow up. How many times you followed up with them, and how to get a hold of them, okay? Or what their health concerns are. That's another good column. Keep it really simple if you need to, but we need to see a picture of your tracker. If you're old school and you want to write it down by hand, that's totally cool. Just make sure you're keeping track somewhere, okay? Okay, more chats. She figured it out. Okay, good. And Kelly says it's double dipping. It's totally double dipping. I love when those things line up. You guys can totally, if you're doing samples in another group, feel free to monopolize and do them for both groups. That's fine with me. As long as you hand out some samples, I will count it as points for your homework. But everyone who hands out 20 will be entered into a draw this week. So there's going to be a prize this week. And I will post what the prize is a little bit after I post the homework and everything, okay? So you got to get your samples out and get your tracker on track. Awesome. Any questions before we head out for the night, guys? Any comments or some tried and true sampling strategies that you have to add?
I'll just add one thing,
Yeah.
I have no idea at what point it was in my business that I felt it, but I remember at the start feeling really uncomfortable. I was never uncomfortable like handing out samples because it was always like so like heartfelt. Like it was like, I want to give this to you because I want this to help you. Like it was always from a good place. The follow-up always seemed kind of awkward at the start. Yeah. And I don't know at what point in my business where that changed, but I don't know if it was a rank or if it was just like development over time. But honestly, I now feel absolutely zero awkwardness from following up with people because I gave them something and I really just want to know like how did it help you, or did it help you, or how did it make you feel, or whatever, right? But I don't know what shifted in my mind, but honestly, when you stop looking at those samples as a potential sale and just see it as helping someone, who cares if they buy oils from you or not? You just are giving them a gift. And then you're asking them if they liked it. If you bought someone a shirt, you would probably ask them if it fit them, right? Or did you want the receipt to exchange it or whatever? You would follow up with them. It's the same thing. Yeah. So I just think like at some point that shift will happen where you stop thinking of it as a sale. And I think that it just makes it so much less awkward.
I love that. Will you tell us maybe like your wording when you follow up with somebody? Even if it's like via text or messenger or whatever.
Yeah.
What do you typically ask?
Like if it's in person, I mean, it's just kind of like, hey, I'm so like often it's because I haven't followed up like when I should have. It's like, hey, I meant to ask you how did that oil work for your son's acne or whatever, right? And then they'll tell me, and it's not even like I'm following up like, did you want to buy oils from me? It's almost like, how did it work? Like I'm curious. If it's a message, if I'm like texting someone or emailing someone, then I will actually say like, hey, I just wanted to follow up. Like, how did you get the samples that I sent you, or how did they work? Or often when I give somebody a sample, I'll say to them, let me send you some info so that you can read on it. And I'll give you instructions as to how to like use it properly. So then I've connected with them in another way too. So like I'm giving it to them, but then I'm also like, I'm going to send you a message so that I have that conversation already started too. Right. So I'll often do that. It just depends on kind of how it was played out, but yeah.
I love that. I feel like we're getting advice from the expert here. I totally have learned a lot from you about sampling.
Well, I don't know if I'm an expert. There's always room for improvement. And I can say that I'm not the most organized with like a follow-up list. I have pieces of paper everywhere with like lists of names on it. It's ridiculous. So if I can give anyone one piece of advice, it's from my mistake. And the other thing that I've honestly just started doing, and this is terrible, I hate to even admit this, but those slips that you hand out at classes for people who didn't buy oils, like you follow up with them once, but you should totally follow up with them again, like several times over, right? And if they sampled that they want more info because they haven't used doTERRA or, you know, they whatever, aren't interested in a residual income or whatever, you should totally still like follow up with them more than one time.
Yeah.
And if they don't ever get back to you, then who cares, right?
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny you mentioned that because today I found a handful of slips from our event that we did, the purse donation night. And some of these people, I don't even know who they are. And so I emailed a bunch of them today and just told them like, hey, I just found these slips. I'm really sorry it took me so long to follow up. And one person got back to me and asked for more information. So it's totally true. Those slips are very important. People don't write down their information willy-nilly and just give it to anybody, right? And some
Absolutely.
people, I had 2 people who circled maybe for building residual income. I was like, oh, dang it, I got to follow up with these people. Awesome. Okay, well, thanks everybody for hopping on tonight. Thanks, Kelly, for your words of wisdom. And have a good night, everybody. Happy Valentine's Day. Bye.